We call poetic license to the liberty taken by poets, writers, or artists in general to use the language in unconventional ways, to liberate their work from standard language in matters such as grammar, meaning, word order, the use of archaic or new coined words, conventional rules, diction, meter, rhyme, or pronunciation in order to reach the requirements of their metrical pattern to establish or achieve a desired specific poetic effect. In other words, it is the author's creativity ability to change the rules of language to meet her or his artistic needs. For example, in Shakespeare's phrase,
"Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him."
the sentence will technically require the word "and" before countrymen, but the conjunction "and" is omitted to preserve the rhyme of iambic pentameter. Or in the song lyric, "We don't need no education" from Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd, the use of double negatives is grammatically incorrect, but accepted since it is an artistic expression. The poetic license covers a large number of branches of linguistics. However, in morphology is more related to productivity or word formation. We understand as occasionalisms those words that the writer creates or rather coins to satisfy a communication need in a single moment. It is only used once, perhaps to make the word more beautiful or to complete a rhyme, for example in the poem in Spanish, Donde tu hermosura se ensombra by Juan Gelman. Let's take the word ensombra. In Spanish, the word sombra means shadow, and the prefix en serves to convert nouns into verbs. So, en sombra, to shadow. In this case, the productivity of the license is following the fixation rules to create an occasionalism. Another different example of the same poet could be found in the word almitar in the same poem. In the phrase, desalmándome llegué a tu almitar, let's separate the elements that compound the word. Alma means soul. Almita could be translated as little soul. Altar is an altar or shrine, so in this case, almitar could be a compound word to designate something as sacred as the soul itself. The word doesn't exist, nor it is accepted as a neologism, so it is an occasionalism. Now, let's take a look from the science fiction work Rediscovery of Man by Corwainer Smith.
When he awakened under the wire, he did not feel as though he had just cranched. Even though it was the second cranching within the week, he felt fit.
Even if we don't understand what crunch means, we know the suffix ed converts the word proceeding from some variable of the auxiliary have into a participle. On the other hand, the ing suffix isolated from another verb will convert the word into a noun. Let's take a look into the Hungarian occasionalisms. The word pogarni. Pogarni is composed by pogar and ni. It means beetle and sizes. So we have two morphemes to describe something that it is the same size of a beetle. The same happened with a yerni, mouse-sized. Going back to Anglophone literature, let's take a look in The Wasted Land by T.S. Eliot.
I, Tiresias, old man with wrinkled dugs, perceived the scene and foretold the rest. I too awaited the expected guest. And I, Tiresias, have forsuffered all enacted on this same divan or bed. I, who have sat by Thebes below the wall, and walked among the lowest of the dead.
We all know the meaning of foretold, past of foretell. This compound word consists in two morphemes, for plus tell. Now the author did a license and changed tell for suffer. Now we have for suffer. We can infer the meaning of the compound as the action of suffering in advance for something that hasn't happened yet. Lewis Carroll was very famous for creating nonsense words and occasionalisms, some of them very simple like snark from The Haunting of the Snark. The imaginary animal seems to be a compound of snake and shark. What about chortle? To chortle means to exclaim exultingly with a noisy chuckle. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, Carroll coined this word as a blend of chuckle and snort, or blending words like frabjous in the Jabberwocky poem. Frabjous mean great, wonderful, fabulous, and is a blend of fabulous, joy juice, and fair, or galloom. Galloom means to move heavily and clumsily, and it is a blend of gallop and triumph. Poetic license also can be found in modern literature and its translations. For example, in the Harry Potter franchise, we have the Death Eaters, the evil followers of Voldemort. In the translation of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the translators coined a new word in Spanish. They took the Greek roots of death and eaters and create the word mortífagos in Spanish. This word was used in further books and film adaptations. Other examples could be found in the Hunger Games franchise. The Mockingjay is already an occasionalism blended of mockingbird and jay. In Spanish, the translator traded the same their equivalent words, sinsonte plus arrendajo, and finally they created the word sinsajo, which is the official name of the animal in Spanish and the titles of the books and the movies associated with the term. The poetic license is one of the most complex issues within linguistics and morphology, since there are not enough studies to generate a standardized theory or rule about its interpretation. Nevertheless, the use of rules is very constant for the alteration of the same. It is a technique often used by writers and artists in all languages with the intention of offering something new and different to the readers. Literary innovation and the evolution of language go hand by hand, and they are the cause of the creation of neologisms and new linguistic varieties.